Hello and welcome to Best Sips Worldwide. I'm your drinking companion, Susan Schwartz, an American travel writer living in London. Thanks to my mother's love of martinis, the first words I spoke were shaken, not stirred, and I've been obsessed by the history of cocktails ever since. Through the years, I've been lucky enough to sip some of the best made by the best. Hear that sound? It's time to cozy up to the bar and let me introduce you to the movers and shakers of the world's most famous watering holes. To celebrate Mexican Independence Day on Friday, we are talking tequila this week with Nicci Stringfellow, UK brand ambassador for Casa Herradura. Have you had yourself a terrible tequila experience, never wanting to touch the stuff again? She reveals the secrets of 100% agave tequila and why you'll never suffer again.
So, a brand ambassador works within the advocacy team of a spirits company in order to kind of drum up brand awareness in both the on-trade and the off-trade. So I do a lot of work with bartenders, so I'll train them on the products and on the category in general, how to use it, all that kind of thing. And then to consumers directly as well, so through tastings, through cocktail classes, that kind of thing. So essentially you're the face of the brand.
And this is the first time that Casa Herradura has had a UK brand ambassador, so you're really blazing the trail for this brand here.
For Brown-Forman in general, actually, the UK is kind of the experimental advocacy team, so we're the first. Whereas things like Pernod Ricard and Diageo, they have global, and it's kind of trickled down to the UK, but we're starting it here.
And how do you think it's going to go in the UK?
Well, we're growing, so it's obviously doing quite well, and generally we have seen a rise in both kind of the brand health measures, so how much people are aware of it, how much they see it, how much they drunk it, and also obviously sales figures as well have generally gone up since the brand ambassadors came on board.
Well, I think everyone has had a margarita in their life and drinks tequila. It's really part of the drinking culture here, definitely, and in hot countries, obviously, the frozen margarita, all that. How it really is Casa Herradura different than, tell me about the brand a little. I think you said it's 100% agave.
It is, so 100%
and so what does that
agave.
really mean?
So the agave plant is the plant that tequila is supposed to be made from. And if a bottle just says tequila on the label, it'll be a minimum of 51% agave, and therefore 49% of generally quite cheaply made alcohol. And made from corn or made from sugarcane, and then with lots of additives and colorings into it. So generally, if you're drinking that kind of tequila, that's when you're getting bad hangovers and it doesn't really taste very nice. Whereas 100% agave tequila, just by its process, is much, much cleaner. We don't add anything to it. There's only 2 ingredients in the bottle. There's water and there's blue agave. So it just means that flavor-wise, it's a lot more complex, it's a lot more full, it's a lot smoother. But also it's not going to affect you in the same way, like any good alcohol, really. It's just that up until kind of 10 years ago, we didn't have 100% agave readily available. And what Casa Herradura has done with both their premium Herradura and their entry-level El Jimador is to kind of really bring 100% agave, make it more accessible through every level, through premium down to mainstream in the UK.
And how long have you been the brand ambassador?
So I'm going up to just over 2 years now.
And have you seen people's perception of tequila change since?
Massively. There's so much more interest in tequila in general as a category. It's one of the fastest growing in the UK, which is incredible, and it's the 100% agave category that is growing. I change people's opinions every day. It's one of the reasons I love my job, because everyone I talk to has generally had, probably more than any other spirit, a bad tequila experience. So I get to go and change that. Because I was the same. I had a terrible tequila experience when I was younger, and then many times after that.
I did, and it's like tequila's one of these things that I just love anyway.
Exactly.
So I came back to it even if I had a terrible experience.
It's almost that double-edged sword. It's gonna, or you think it should give you a bad hangover, and you have to kind of suffer for it, but at the same time it has this almost euphoria attached to it when you drink it. And that's part of the ritual and the party aspect, and where and when we tend to drink tequila. But I guess what I try to do is let people know that extends to all occasions. There are many different ways to drink tequila. It's not just that shot, and it certainly isn't that bad quality stuff. That's not all tequila is. There's much more to it, and it's a very pleasant thing.
You say you change opinions all the time. Have you seen that the customer has completely changed since you started bartending, when you were a bartender?
Yes, people are definitely more willing to try new things, and tequila is part of that. I think generally people are more aware of 100% agave anyway, so there's a lot more call for tequila cocktails in bars. You know, when I first started bartending, it very much was still shot, lime, salt, and that was it. And actually kind of became my mission to give people other things. You know, people would say to me, I want anything but tequila. They would always get a tequila cocktail. And 9 times out of 10 they would like it because it didn't hit that kind of stereotype that they had in their mind of what it would taste like. And so it's literally, it takes that one sip of a different style or a different cocktail or a different serve, and it opens up their mind to, oh, actually, maybe I was wrong. But if you give them another shot, even if it's 100% agave, they'll probably stay in that same kind of frame of mind.
Right, of course. Now, since you said providing shots, you did that. You were a shot giver. Of
course,
in the early days.
I'm a shot drinker indeed.
Where were you giving those shots? Can you tell us a little bit about where you
so when
you were doing before this?
I started bartending, I was in Lisbon, which is where I grew up. And I started bartending.
But you have an English accent.
I do, so my parents are English. I'm English by birth, but grew up in both Alabama and Lisbon as well. So it's a bit of a mixture of an accent, actually.
Being an American, I have to know about the Alabama part.
So that was when I was really tiny, when I was 3 years old. So, sorry, 2.5 till 7. I was in Alabama. So my first accent was actually the deep south. The proper little southern girl. Do you know what? Not in demand, but when I meet someone from there, it comes out automatically. And I sometimes think that I'm taking the mick out of them. But
it's a lot closer to Mexico, I guess, where tequila is too.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the Texans coming down. It tends to come out.
And then you went on to Portugal.
Yes, and then I went on to Portugal. So Hard Rock Cafe in Lisbon. So keeping a little bit of America in there, actually.
Right.
That's where I first started bartending. So lots of sour mix and Long Island iced teas.
And why bartending?
I had gone to university for kind of the first 6 months of the first year, and I'd always been a really good student, very diligent, and I think at that point I was just kind of like, why am I doing this? I'm paying for this and I'm really not enjoying it so much. And so I moved back to Portugal. I'd come to London for a little bit, and I moved back to Portugal and kind of just needed a job really and fell into it, and it was the bar side that kind of interested me more than the waiting side. Not really sure why. Maybe because it looked a bit cooler. I'm not sure. But I absolutely loved it, and I guess kind of took to it very quickly as well. And although obviously Hard Rock Cafe isn't known for its great cocktails, the actual learning of the bartending side of the stuff, we had no bar bags. You were doing all your own glassware. It was an 800 capacity restaurant with 4 bartenders. So you knew how to work.
And I'm sure really busy at all times.
Exactly.
So you had to be quick on your feet.
If you're on dispense, you were absolutely gunning it. So that really prepared me to then kind of learn the cocktails. That was the easy part after that.
And when did you think, how long did it take you to think, oh wait, this is something that I really want to continue doing. This might be a future for me. So I moved, after that year in Portugal, I then went back to university. I kind of found something that I was a little bit more interested in and wanted to do. And so I moved back 9 months earlier because I was going to have to pay for myself through there so I could get settled and get a job. So I started bartending here as well. And that's when I started with the match group and started to really learn about proper cocktail history and the classics and all that kind of thing, and started to really fall in love with it there. And then when I started my uni course, realizing that even though I was supposed to be prioritizing that, I was actually really much more enjoying reading about cocktails. So then I guess it was from there, and I carried on with my degree for the next 4 or 5 years and finished it, but the bar was always the kind of in the mind's eye to carry on with. And since you brought up the match group,
yes.
Dale DeGroff was a major part of that, and as the godfather pretty much of cocktails,
indeed,
espresso martini.
Yeah. This was certainly the first book I ever got.
Yes, that's one of the first that I ever got to, and I learned so much from it. Did he influence you at all? Were you able to even interact with him, or was he so far above that he never really came down? How did that work?
Obviously, there was a lot of influence through his drinks program that he had set up with the owners. So the whole training program, which was incredible and one I haven't really seen rival since, at the match group was set up by him. So in that way he was a huge influence, but kind of directly as well. So he would come over a couple of times a year and hold training sessions with us. So you would get some kind of one-on-one time with him. And I think I did embarrassingly want to tell him that I wanted him to be my grandfather because he was so cool.
Was that before or after the first espresso martini?
A couple of drinks in, yeah.
No, I'm sure he must looked at all of you and thought, this is a future that I've created.
Absolutely, and knowing that he had, I mean, he did start that essentially. Him at the Rainbow Room was what kicked it all off, and if it wasn't for him, I certainly wouldn't be here today.
Definitely, he was definitely one of these shining stars, like, Jerry Thomas, who, the godfather of cocktails, and Dale DeGroff. You're really, really lucky to have interacted with him at all. I'm sure. I wish that he could be around for him to make me an espresso martini.
Definitely. And he's so personable and so lovely and humble with it as well. Like he will happily just hang out with you and ask whatever stupid question you want, and he's really, really cool.
Well, I find that the whole bartending culture, or all of you working in London today, are so supportive of each other. This is what I've heard from the people I've interviewed in London, that everyone is helping people out, even if someone sleeps late or whatever it is. People are really...
Definitely, it's like a little family, and I think, that extends past London. It's amazing how small it is internationally as well. I mean, if you see at Tales of the Cocktail now, half of London's actually over there. But yeah, everyone has each other's back. If you're in a competition and you've forgotten something and there's a bar down the street that will have it, they'll happily lend it to you, all that kind of thing. And the boomerangs going from bar to bar, drinks from bartenders sent to other bars in the neighborhood, like this. Yeah.
And obviously you're a female in quite a male-dominated industry.
Yes.
Do you feel that you have been accepted just as much, or had to work harder because of being a woman?
I mean, I think a little bit of both. I think I was very lucky with the bars that I worked in that, I did the job and I did it well, and so it wasn't really seen as, you're the girl. It was fairly equal at that point. I mean, there's definitely places where you see that, and I have experienced it before, but then it's just far more satisfying to prove them wrong and outsell them. So, I've always quite, if I'm honest, enjoyed being sort of in the minority in that way. I think it's always good to have that balance of female and male on a cocktail team, and I've always enjoyed being that female in a male-dominated team. But I was a girl growing up with big brothers as well, so maybe I was always quite a tomboy.
Yes, I do too. I understand that too. Now, do you get to bartend a lot as the brand ambassador?
Love. No.
You must miss it.
I do miss it, and any chance I get, I do jump behind. But it's good. So I do events, and if I do consumer cocktail classes or anything like that, I do get to jump behind the stick and make a few. And to be honest, if I had a full shift to do, I'd probably, after the first couple of hours, had enough. Not really want to break down, so I guess I get the best bits of it now.
But I guess you get to create cocktails.
I do,
right?
yes.
And tell me about how the creation comes out.
Usually, I guess it depends on the brief and the kind of place it's being designed for. But I generally think a lot about recipes that I use for food. So I do a lot of baking. So a lot of the kind of sweet flavors will come from combinations that I've used in that, and more savory flavors from cooking recipes.
Do you just bake for fun?
I do. I do. I bake too much. I do enjoy it.
And that's another thing. I found that a lot of the great bartenders I've met have had food backgrounds, and it really lends itself well to their creating of new cocktails.
Absolutely. And I think it works both ways as well. So a lot of bartenders, because they're interested in flavour, therefore become interested in cooking and food as well. So generally you've got a fairly good palate, right? And if you're making drinks with liquid or food with solids, obviously. What I'm trying to say is the flavours are the same, right? The idea is the same, the pairings are the same. So they lend to each other very well.
All right, well, thank you so much for taking the time. I can't wait for you to make us a cocktail.
Yes.
All right.
There are still a few more days to get ready for Friday's holiday. So let's all raise a glass to Nicci for setting us straight, and to Mexico for producing one of my favorite spirits. Hopefully, for most of you, your shot, lime, and salt days are over, and now you'll sip and savor the good stuff from now on. Next up, we shoot over to Cyprus to meet Dinos Konstantinidis, owner of Lost and Found Drinkery, awarded one of the world's 50 best bars last year by Drinks International. Until next time, bottoms up. For more information and links to everything you've heard about, plus a bit more, please visit bestbitsworldwide.com. Thanks for listening to Best Sips Worldwide, a spin-off of Best Bits Worldwide.
Always remember the wise words of Oscar Wilde, all things in moderation, including moderation, and never drink and drive. Okay, I said that last part. Theme music is by Steven Shapiro and used with permission. You'll find me at the bar